What's going on, everybody? So today I have a continuation of a previous video. I actually have another one planned, but I did a lot more calculations because a lot of people were asking me about some other gems and how far can this go, and I completely agree with them. And what am I talking about today? Well, we went over a previous video talking about damage amping gems and how they can potentially be way better than resonance. Oftentimes, a 1-star or 2-star gem can be way more worthwhile in terms of resonance, in terms of damage, than resonance itself. Therefore, if you're someone like a whale, then you could go ahead and go for those 2- and 1-star gems and actually be more effective than just going all 5-star gems. And I'm doubling down on that, and we're gonna see what the calculations look like when we use all damage amping gems. And what I mean by all damage amping gems is we're going to use the gems that have things like permanent damage amp. For example, Berserker's Eye. Another example is Bloody Reach, Power and Command, and then Blood-Soaked Jade. There are a few others like Curse Sling that could amp up your damage. There are others like Concentrated Will that can amp up your damage, but we're not including those because, and Bottled Hope can potentially increase your damage, but those ones aren't 100% of the time. Technically, Power and Command is not, but you always get some sort of damage amping. So I figured I'd incorporate into the calculations and just show you guys how powerful 1- and 2-star gems really are. Now, before I talk about that, a lot of people were like, haha, this guy's, trolling. This guy doesn't use his 1-star and 2-star gems. Guys, I've explained this so many times in so many different videos, but I'll explain it here again before we jump into that spreadsheet. I wanted 3,000 resonance, okay? I wanted it for the wings. I wanted the wings, right? That's what I wanted for my own personal enjoyment. 1. 2, I want Magic Find higher, right? 2 reasons. I want higher Magic Find. Even though the damage increase would help me in sort of dungeon content, the amount of times I farm ends up being a little bit better for me because I open world farm 90% of the time, okay? 90% of the time I'm open world farming, which means Magic Find really affects that. If you're doing dungeons a lot, if you're PvPing or doing these other things, Magic Find may not matter to you as much, but I personally want the Magic Find. And Magic Find and combat rating are 2 things that don't get replaced by this method, so that is something to consider when you're going through here. But in terms of damage, this is no contest the best option. Let's get into it. All right, so if you guys saw my previous video on this spreadsheet, which by the way will be in the description of this video again, I think for the first hour, this wasn't in the description of the last video, which I apologize for that, but it should be for this one. Correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. But last time I went over the resonance scaling and the damage amping from Berserker's Eye. So right here, you'll notice the total amount here at the ending amount, because Berserker's Eye gives you less resonance. 1-star gems gives you about 190 resonance, assuming you're going gem resonance, and assuming that we're maxing things out, right? We're assuming a massive whale. We're comparing maxed out 5-star gems versus 1-star maxed out gems because that's what really matters in terms of end game max content for those Krakens. Obviously, if you're free to play or a low spender, you're going to want to go for the 1- and 2-star gems that give you the damage amping anyways, and that's commonplace advice. But this is really for those Krakens out there, as well as giving you guys some reassurance as free-to-play players on how powerful you can actually be, even if you're free-to-play in PvE content. In PvP, this does not apply because 66% damage reduction for PvP content or 66% less effectiveness in PvP content means that, well, you're not going to get nearly as much damage increase. Regardless, at 7.5k resonance, which is almost the max here, we're going to get 17,500 damage, assuming certain base stats. Then we have 18,800 damage if we were at 6,400 resonance, yet we had Berserker's Eye. That was the final calculations that we came up with. Now, I decided to expand on that, as you can see down here. What you'll see here is Berserker's Eye increase, Bloody Reach, Power and Command, and Blood-Soaked Jade. Those are the different damage multiplying gems. Berserker's Eye is going to do 16%. Bloody Reach, assuming the max distance, is going to do 24%. Power and Command, assuming you're on the right modes, is going to be 24%. Blood-Soaked Jade, assuming your max life, is going to be 24% as well. Again, there's so many variables. I can't account for every variable in every single scenario. So this is just a generalization. Of course, this is mainly for people who are interested in just doing a bunch of damage and contributing if you're free to play or low spending or maxed characters, you can find that the low spender, you don't actually have to feel bad, which is proof from this chart. And the Krakens, actually, you may want to consider maxing these out if you guys want to have separate builds, for having extra damage. But you'll find out here that if we were to use these gems and then the last 2 slots were to be 5-star maxed out, the total amount of resonance we could acquire was roughly 47,000 or 4,750. Okay, I decided to round down because I actually rounded down here for the max resonance. So these are very, very comparable. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong if I'm doing any miscalculations, guys. By the way, I've been staring at the spreadsheet for a couple hours. But what you'll find is that these increases in damage, I don't believe they increase each other. Meaning, let's say you have Berserker's Eye. I don't believe Bloody Reach is going to do 24% of your total damage and your Berserker's Eye. I believe that these damage numbers, as far as I've tested, it's hard to test because the damage is variable in game. But as far as I've found, these damage numbers are increasing the total damage before your other increases take effect. So keep that in mind. That's what I did the math on. If it's increasing the Berserker's Eye and each other, this becomes even more insane to where it's like kind of broken. But anyways, the total damage here with our Paragon, our normal gems, and our damage from our gear stats is shown right here. At 4,700 resonance, we're gonna have about 14,200 damage. At my resonance, which is 3,000, I have about 12,200 damage. That's my exact number according to my gear, assuming no changes to gear were made, which they have been since I actually charted this out. But with Berserker's Eye, you're going to find that you're going to get a total of 2,200 damage increase based on this number. With Bloody Reach, Berserker's Eye, Berserker's Eye, Bloody Reach, Bloodsoaked Jade, and Power and Command, they're each going to increase it by 24%, which is a total of 3,400 damage. And check this out. The total damage that you're going to find after you get all these increases is 26,700 damage. 26,700 damage. Compare that to no damage amping gems here. If you're gonna do a standard build here, you're gonna find that you're probably gonna use Bloodsoaked Jade actually. So let's say you're gonna use Bloodsoaked Jade here. To give it a little bit more of a realistic estimate, you're gonna find, let me just do the calculations here. We're gonna do this multiplied. That way I can give you, pulling up a lot of random stuff here on the video, but we're gonna find that we're most likely gonna use Bloodsoaked Jade, right? Most people use that amount of damage or that gem in their damage build because most people consider it to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest gem in the game. Then we're gonna go ahead and expand this outwards to give you guys just the proper numbers, and then we can go ahead and give you guys the numbers here. Let's go ahead and highlight that in yellow. So right here behind me, you'll find that, 21,700 if you're using Bloodsoaked Jade is the total amount of damage that you can acquire if you're not using any other 1 and 2-star gems. You're using all 5-star gems. Obviously, there's the effects of like Echoing Shade that could increase your damage, right? There's the effects of things like Concentrated Will, Howler's Call. All those effects aren't going to be applied. However, if you note here, the amount of damage that you're dealing on something that has a 1.0 multiplier is 26,000 if you're using all 1 and 2-star gems that are damage amping with the Bloodsoaked Jade and 2 other 5-star gems. So what this basically proves is that almost always, if you want to just straight up boost your damage consistently, the 1 and 2-star gems are always better regardless of resonance. It doesn't matter if you're like 3,000 resonance. It doesn't matter if you're 4,000 resonance. It doesn't matter if you're 7,000 resonance. Always go ahead and go for those damage amping gems, even if you have to replace a majority of your 5-star gems, because you'll find that even if you compare this number to the previous number, right? The previous number was about 18,000 at 6,400 resonance. This number is 26,000. Now, I'd love to put together a chart where it shows you the maximum efficiency, meaning there's a balance where you can go ahead and go for max resonance plus max damage. There's gonna be a kind of a chart that gives you like kind of like a cross reference in terms of this is the amount of resonance you want to go for, this is the amount of gem damage amping increases that you want to go for, and that's going to be the most effective build in terms of most effective life and damage. The one thing, or the couple downsides I should say, with this strategy is that you're going to lose some combat rating, but if you have 4,700 resonance already, you're going to have plenty of combat rating, guys. I would not worry about that. 1, 2, Magic Find. That is something to consider. You're going to lose quite a bit of Magic Find. You're going to lose 5, and then you're going to lose 10, 20% Magic Find in this build. That is also another thing to consider if you're going to go ahead and go for this. And the third thing to consider is you're going to lose life if you're going to go for this, okay? And I guess the fourth thing to consider is you're going to lose the actual legendary gem 5-star effects that you may have otherwise used. But I believe that this makes up for that. The things that you really have to consider is the magic find and the life. Those are the two things that are really, really important to consider when you're going for this. So I thought this was pretty cool. I've been enjoying doing the math of these gems recently, more so. And I find that if you guys want to look at any of these, it's going to be in the description down below. If you guys want to verify some of my math, feel free to do so. Just file, make a copy. You know, if I see my spreadsheet and someone's out there saying it's mine, then I'm gonna fight you on that one. But you know, feel free to use it for your own personal use as much as you want. Anyways, guys, this is just a pretty cool concept that I thought was interesting that I'd share with you all because, well, a lot of people out there are concerned that they're not being super valuable. If you guys look here, I guess one other thing I want to mention in this spreadsheet, if you're someone that's free to play, let's say you're at 1K resonance, guess what, guys? That total increase of damage ends up being about 18,000 damage, 500. And if you compare that to someone that's going full 5-star gems with a Bloodsoaked Jade, guess what? You're only 3K damage behind despite being 6,000 resonance behind. And in the charts, it looks like, oh, I have 17,500 damage versus 9,000 damage. You don't actually have half their damage. You actually have quite a bit more damage than them, considering that fact. So if you're going with a full damage amping strategy, right? That's the consideration, which you won't have at 1K resonance, okay? You will not have this. It's impossible. But just to consider, the damage amping really is important. I just want to give you that example, even though it's not completely accurate. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you guys enjoyed this video and you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like the video, sub to the channel. Again, I have a few more ideas for spreadsheets I want to make. Again, this is my favorite thing to do in these games, is just do the numbers and dive into the spreadsheets. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.